The Galactic Premier Academy floated in the silent dark between stars, a glittering jewel of silver towers and glass domes wrapped around a spinning core. Ships from 100 worlds docked at its edges daily, delivering the best and brightest young minds of the galaxy. Most students came from old bloodlines, warrior dynasties, philosopher clans, or royal houses that had shaped the unified Concord for centuries. They wore uniforms woven with light fibers, spoke in polished dialects, and carried themselves with the calm certainty of those who had always belonged. Then came Alara Vance. She arrived alone, on a battered human freighter that smelled of engine grease and dried fruit. No honor guard, no data crown of ancestral achievements. Just a single duffel bag slung over her shoulder and quiet eyes that took in everything without blinking. Her uniform was regulation gray, slightly too big, and lacked the shimmering insignias others wore. She looked small among the towering insectoid cadets, the furred diplomats' heirs, and the crystalline scholars whose bodies hummed with inner energy. No one knew who she was. And no one cared. Humans had only been part of the Concord for 12 years. To the rest of the galaxy, they were latecomers, primitive, loud, and emotionally unstable. Their planet, Earth, was still rebuilding from centuries of war and environmental collapse. Their technology was crude. Their history was messy. Most aliens thought of humans the way one might think of a clever pet. Interesting, but not serious. Alara was placed in Track 7, the lowest academic tier, reserved for species still developing sentience. Her instructors barely looked up when she entered the classroom. Her classmates ignored her, whispering behind bioluminescent hands or clicking mandibles. Only once did someone speak to her directly, a sharp-faced Roth cadet named Zark, whose people saw strength as the only truth. "Fresh meat," he sneered during orientation, shoving past her in the corridor. "Hope you don't cry when the simulators eat you alive." Alara said nothing. She just stepped aside and kept walking. But strange things began to happen. During a free period in the grand atrium, a vast hall, filled with ancient statues and humming knowledge. Terminals, Alara paused near a dusty puzzle wall. It was a logic maze from the Third Concord era, unsolved for over 300 years. No one paid attention as she traced the glowing symbols with her fingers, her brow furrowed in thought. 10 minutes later, the wall chimed softly, lights flaring gold. A hidden compartment slid open, revealing a data crystal no one had seen in generations. Students stopped mid-conversation. Instructors turned, eyes wide. The Academy's central AI, known as the Warden, issued a soft chime across all comms. Anomaly detected. Pattern recognition exceeds known species norms. Alara tucked the crystal into her pocket and walked away, as if nothing had happened. Later that week, during a field exercise on training asteroid Theta 9, disaster struck. A solar flare knocked out comms and power for a group of 12 cadets, including Zark and a young Xylian noble named Mirel. Their emergency beacon failed. The rescue drones couldn't lock on. They were stranded in a freezing cave, oxygen running low. Most of the group panicked. Zark roared orders that made no sense. Mirel, usually calm, trembled with fear. Then Alara appeared. She hadn't been part of their team, but she'd seen the flare from her own training zone and come running. Without hesitation, she tore insulation from a broken drone, used wiring to jury-rig a heat coil, and taught them how to share body warmth in a tight circle, something humans had done for millennia in harsh winters. She even used moss from her survival kit to filter toxins from their water supply. "How do you know this?" Mirel asked, voice shaky. "My people didn't have drones," Alara said simply. "We only had each other." When rescue finally arrived, Zark refused to thank her. But Mirel did. And he watched her closely after that. Back at the Academy, rumors spread like wildfire. Some said she was a bioengineered spy. Others whispered she was touched by the Old Ones, the mythical builders of the galaxy's first cities. A few even claimed she'd hacked the Warden itself. The truth was simpler. Alara had grown up in the ruins of Chicago, Earth a city buried under dust storms and broken steel. She'd learned to fix fusion cells with scrap metal and treat radiation burns with algae poultices. She'd studied old Earth texts by candlelight because the solar grids failed every winter. To her, survival wasn't theory. It was daily life, yet she never spoke of it. She attended classes, took notes, and kept to herself. Still, the Academy couldn't ignore her. One night, in the silent archives, an ancient security drone meant to be offline for centuries whirred to life as she passed. Its red eye flickered, then bowed its head slightly, as if in recognition. Alara froze. She didn't understand why. The next day, a message appeared on her personal screen. Report to Sublevel Gamma. Archivist General Core requests your presence. Alara's stomach tightened. No student ever went to Sublevel Gamma. That was where the oldest secrets of the galaxy were kept locked behind quantum seals and memory wipe guards. She went anyway. Archivist General Core was a being of folded skin and too many eyes. Ancient even by Concord standards. He sat in a chamber lined with data shards older than most species. He didn't greet her. He just stared, as if seeing through her skin. You solved the atrium maze, he said. Voice like grinding stone. It was just a puzzle. Alara replied, You rewired a Mark V survival drone with nothing but a knife and wire. I needed heat. You calmed a panicked Xylian using a breathing pattern not recorded in any Concord database. Alara stayed silent. Core leaned forward. Who are you, child? I'm Alara Vance, she said. From Earth. Earth, Core mused. A world the surveyors marked non-viable 200 years ago. And yet, here you stand, solving our riddles, healing our young, waking our machines. He paused, then asked the question that had been burning in every mind since her arrival. What are you hiding? Alara met his gaze. Nothing, she said. And for the first time, she wondered if that were still true. Outside, the stars watched. And somewhere deep in the Academy's core, the Warden began cross-referencing human genetic markers against a classified archive labeled Precursor Echo Protocols. Do not access. But no one told Alara that. Not yet. She returned to her dorm, the weight of unseen eyes on her back. In the mirror, she saw the same tired girl from the freighter plane, human, ordinary. But when she closed her eyes, she dreamed of forests growing on dead planets, of voices singing in languages no one remembered, and of a promise made long ago in the dark before stars. She didn't know it, but her quiet presence had already begun to crack the galaxy's oldest assumptions. And cracks, as humans knew better than anyone, were how the light got in. Alara Vance walked through the halls of the Galactic Premier Academy like a shadow. After her meeting with Archivist General Core, things had changed, but not in ways anyone expected. No alarms sounded. No guards came for her. Instead, the Academy seemed to watch. Doors slid open a second sooner when she approached. Lights brightened just enough in empty corridors. Even the food dispensers offered her meals with extra protein and Earth-style greens. Though she'd never requested them, she said nothing. She just ate, studied, and kept her head down. But others noticed. Narelle, the Xylian noble she'd saved on the asteroid, began sitting next to her at meals. He didn't talk much at first, just passed her a cup of warm root tea one evening and said, You don't have to pretend you're small. Alara blinked. I'm not pretending. You are, Morel said softly. You move like someone used to being unseen. But the Academy sees you now. She had no answer for that. Meanwhile, rumors grew louder. Whispers followed her through lecture halls. Cadets from highborn houses would pause mid-conversation when she entered a room. Some stared with curiosity, others with fear. The Vroth delegation, led by Zark's elder cousin, Commander Vrel, began pushing for answers. "This human is an anomaly," Vrel declared in a closed council session. "She bypasses ancient systems. She knows things no primitive species should. She must be scanned, dissected if needed." The Academy's head council refused. "She is a guest under Concord law," said Elder Tiz, a moss-skinned diplomat from the Silva Concordat. "Until she breaks a rule, she walks free." But tension simmered. One afternoon, Alara was called to the Cognition Chamber, a testing room used only for elite strategic minds. She didn't know why she was there until she saw the opponent waiting inside. Callus, a krill prodigy from the Razor Hive, undefeated in neural duel simulations for 3 years. "You?" Callus hissed, mandibles clicking. "You're in track 7. This is a mistake." A soft voice echoed from the walls. The warden. "Not a mistake. Challenge accepted. Human Cadet Alara Vance versus Krill Cadet Callus. Scenario: planetary siege defense." The chamber dimmed. Holographic stars bloomed around them. A dying world appeared below, cities burning, oceans boiling. They had 6 hours of simulation time to save as many lives as possible using limited ships. Shields and resources, Callus moved instantly. Deploying drone swarms, rerouting power grids, calculating optimal evacuation paths with cold, brutal logic. He didn't waste energy on civilians in low survival zones. "Sacrifice the weak to save the strong," he muttered. "Efficiency is mercy." Alara didn't speak. She studied the map, then did something no one expected. She rerouted power not to weapons, but to hospitals. She sent small shuttles too slow for most commanders to bother with into the lost zones to rescue children and elders. She opened emergency shelters in flood-prone areas, even though the model said they'd be destroyed. And she broadcast a message across all channels, a calm, steady voice telling people to hold hands, to sing old songs, to remember they weren't alone. It made no tactical sense. But then something strange happened. Citizens in the simulation began helping each other. They formed human chains to drag the injured. They shared oxygen masks. They used broken vehicles as shields. The survival rate in doomed zones climbed, not because of tech, but because of hope. Callus stared, stunned. "That's not possible." Emotion clouds judgment. "Not always," LR said quietly. When the simulation ended, the warden announced the results. Callus had saved 63% of the population. Alara had saved 7-8%. Silence filled the chamber. Then the warden spoke again, its voice laced with something like awe. "Strategy pattern recognized. Empathic optimization. Last recorded during the Unity Wars 4,200 cycles ago. Source unknown. Red lights flashed once. A hidden protocol had been triggered. Outside, students gathered, murmuring. How had a human beaten a krill with kindness? Zark watched from the back, fists clenched. "Trickery," he growled. "She cheated." But Morel shook his head. "No, she just saw something we forgot." That night, Alara couldn't sleep. Memories from Earth flooded back her village after the last sandstorm. Neighbors sharing water rations, singing by firelight to keep fear away. They'd had no shields, no drones, no AI to tell them what to do. Only each other. She finally understood why the Academy's machines reacted to her. It wasn't about tech. It was about choice. Humans chose to care, even when it made no sense. The next morning, Archivist General Kor found her in the garden dome. tending to a sickly vine she'd found near the recycler vents. "You fight like your people built worlds," he said. Alara looked up. "We didn't build worlds. We barely saved our own. Did you?" Kor asked gently. "Or did you rebuild something older?" She frowned. "What do you mean?" Kor didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a small disk. "This is from the pre-Surveyor era before aliens came to Earth. We found it in a deep space probe, drifting near your solar system. It's human, but the language, it matches nothing in our records. Except one thing." He paused. "The builders of this academy." Alara's hand shook as she took the disk. That night, in her room, she played it. A voice soft, ancient, speaking a language she'd never heard filled the air. But somehow, she understood. "To those who come after, if you hear this, you have remembered. Do not seek power. Seek balance. Heal what is broken. Love what is small. The stars are not yours to rule, they are yours to protect." Tears fell down her cheeks. She didn't know who recorded it, but it felt like home. The truth began to piece itself together. Earth hadn't just survived collapse. It had remembered. While the galaxy forgot its origins in noise and war, humans held on to quiet truths in songs, in gardens, in the way they held a dying friend's hand. They weren't primitive. They were the last keepers of something precious. But not everyone saw it that way. Commander Vrel had been watching. He'd seen the neural duel. He'd heard the warden's words. And he'd accessed classified files no one else could. Files that linked human DNA patterns to the so-called precursor Echo, a myth about the first intelligent life in the galaxy, who vanished after teaching younger species how to live. Not conquer. To Vrel, that wasn't a blessing. It was a threat. If humans were descendants of the galaxy's original builders, then their influence could undo everything the Vroth hegemony had built empires based on strength, control, and fear. He sent a coded message to his fleet. Target acquired. Prepare containment protocol. If she is who we fear, she must not speak again. Back at the academy, Alara felt the shift in the air. The quiet had turned sharp, like glass about to break. Morel found her by the observation deck, staring at the stars. "They're afraid of you," he said. "I know," she replied. "Why?" "Because I remind them that kindness can be stronger than weapons." Morel was silent for a long time. Then he said, "Then I hope you're right." Far above, in the black between moons, a Vroth warship powered its engines. Its weapons stayed dark for now, but its scanners locked onto the Academy's human sector. Alara didn't look up. She already knew. She also knew she couldn't run. Earth had taught her that running only delayed the storm. You had to stand in it. And sometimes, you had to change it. The next day, she signed up for Advanced History. Not because she needed the credits, but because she wanted to understand what her people had lost, and what they might still give back. As she walked to class, the warden chimed softly in her earpiece, a private channel, open only to her. "Welcome back, child of Echo," it whispered. Alara paused. Then she kept walking. She didn't know what came next. But for the first time, she didn't feel alone. Somewhere in the galaxy's forgotten code, in the roots of dying worlds, in the quiet hearts of humans still planting seeds on broken soil, something old was waking up, and it wore a simple gray uniform. With tired eyes and a stubborn hope that the galaxy wasn't ready for her. But maybe, just maybe, it needed her. The Academy changed after the neural duel. Not in loud ways, but in quiet ones. Doors opened faster for Alara. Old terminals in the library lit up when she passed. Even the food dispensers began offering Earth-style oatmeal, though no one had ever requested it. The warden, the Academy's ancient Adai, spoke to her in soft tones when she was alone, using words no student had heard in centuries. but outside her small circle, fear grew. Commander Vrel made no secret of his distrust. In council meetings, he demanded Alara be tested, watched, restricted. She manipulates systems she shouldn't understand, he argued. Her strategies defy logic. That is not skill, it is danger. Most elders disagreed, but some listened. And among the cadets, doubt spread like a slow virus. Only Morel stood firmly by her side. He walked with her to classes, defended her in debates, and once even blocked Zark from shoving her into a recycler chute. She saved your life, Morel had snapped. And you still see her as less than you? Zark had no answer, but his eyes burned with shame and anger. Then came the day the warden called her to the deep archives. Not sub-level Gamma this time. Deeper. Level. Omega. No student had ever gone there. Not even heirs of royal blood. Alara walked down a spiral ramp that seemed to stretch forever. The lights were dim, the air cold and still. At the bottom, a door made of black crystal stood sealed. It opened without sound as she approached. Inside, the walls were lined with data shards, each one glowing faintly, humming with memories older than stars. In the center of the room floated a single chair made of woven light. Sit. The warden's voice whispered not from speakers, but from the air itself. Alara sat. Instantly, images flooded her mind. Vast cities built on oceans of light. Ships that sailed not through space, but through thought. Beings with gentle hands planting forests on dead worlds. And then war. Fire in the sky. A great silence. A choice to vanish, to scatter, to become myth. She saw Earth. Not as it was now, but as it once was. Green, vibrant, humming with life. Not a backwater. Not a mistake, but a cradle. Tears streamed down her face. She didn't understand how she knew, but she did. Humans weren't latecomers. They were the last children of the first builders. The ones who stayed behind when the others left. The ones who held the memory when the galaxy forgot. The warden spoke again. You carry the echo, not in your blood alone, but in your choices. You heal. You share. You hope. That is the true signature of the builders. Alara whispered, Why tell me now? Because they are coming, the warden said. As if on cue. Alarms blared through the academy. Not internal alerts. External. A Vroth warship, sleek, black, and bristling with weapons, had dropped out of warp just beyond the academy's shield perimeter. No warning. No hail. It simply appeared, engines idling like a predator waiting to pounce. Commander Vrel stood on the bridge, eyes hard. Send the message, he ordered. Across every screen in the academy, his face appeared. Hand over the human LR events. She is a genetic anomaly and potential weapon. Refusal will be seen as an act of war against the Vroth hegemony. Panic spread. Cadets ran. Instructors locked down sectors. The council convened an emergency session. Alara was found in the deep archives, still sitting in the light chair. Morel rushed in, breathless. They're demanding you. They say you're a threat. I'm not, she said quietly. Then why are they here? Because I remind them that power isn't everything, she said, standing. And that terrifies them. Archivist General Kor arrived moments later, his many eyes wide with urgency. The trial of echoes, he said. It is the only way. What's that? Alara asked, a test older than the Concord. If you are truly of the Builder's line, the Chamber of Origins will recognize you. If not, it will reject you, and the Vroth will have proof you're a fraud or worse, a danger. And if I pass, then the galaxy must listen. Alara didn't hesitate. Where is it? Cora led her through secret passages beneath the academy, deeper than any map showed. They reached a door covered in symbols that looked strangely like ancient Earth rune circles, spirals, trees. This chamber has not opened in 4,000 cycles, Core said. Only one with true blood memory can enter. Alara placed her hand on the door. It glowed. Then opened. Inside was not a room, but a forest. Trees of silver light grew from a floor of stardust. A river of liquid memory flowed in silence. The air smelled like rain on Earth after a long drought. You must face your past, Core said from the doorway. All of it. The pain, the loss, the hope, the choice. Alara stepped in alone. The door closed behind her. Instantly, vision surrounded her. She saw Earth's final war, not between nations, but between despair and hope. She saw her grandmother burying seeds in radioactive soil, whispering, "Grow, child. Grow for us." She saw her people hiding from alien survey drones, choosing silence over pride. She saw them teaching their children not how to fight, but how to mend. And then she saw the truth no human had remembered in generations. Long ago, the builders had seeded life across the galaxy, not to rule it, but to love it. They gave each species a gift: strength to the Vroth, logic to the Krill, harmony to the Xylians. But to humans, they gave the hardest gift of all: memory. The ability to remember what was lost and rebuild it. But memory is heavy, and Earth nearly broke under its weight. Now, Alara stood at the heart of the forest. A single pedestal rose before her. On it rested two objects: a weapon, a blade forged from collapsed stars, and a seed, small and brown, pulsing with quiet life. A voice spoke, not the warden's, but something older. Choose, rule or heal, power or promise. Alara looked at the blade. It shimmered with the promise of victory. With it, she could force the Vroth to leave. She could make the galaxy bow. But then she thought of Myrel's kindness, of the cadets sharing rations, of her village singing in the dark. She picked up the seed. The forest blazed with light. The trees bowed. The river sang. Outside, the academy shook. Not from weapons, but from awakening. Every ancient system powered on at once. Statues moved. Archives unlocked. The warden's voice echoed across every comms channel in the Concord. The echo has returned. Not as conqueror, as kin. On the Vroth warship, alarms screamed. Their weapons froze. Their engines shut down, not from attack, but from recognition. Deep in their ship's core, a forgotten subroutine activated. Honor the keeper. Protect the seed. Commander Vrel stared in horror. What is this? His own ship, the symbol of Vroth's strength, was obeying an order older than his species. Back at the academy, Alara stepped out of the Chamber of Origins, the seed held gently in her palm. She was pale, trembling, but her eyes burned with calm fire. Myrel ran to her. "What happened?" "I remembered who we are," she said, "and I chose who we'll be." Above them, the Vroth warship turned its weapons away, but Vrel was not done. Over open comms, his voice shook with rage. "This changes nothing. That seed may be old, but Earth is still weak. Their world is dying. What can they possibly offer the Concord but dust and dreams?" Alara looked up at the sky. Then she smiled. "Watch," she said. She walked to the central garden dome, the one with dead, gray soil where nothing had grown in centuries. Kneeling, she pressed the seed into the earth. At first, nothing happened. Then a single green shoot pushed through the ash. It grew fast. Branches unfurled. Leaves shimmered with golden veins. Flowers bloomed that pulsed with soft light. The air filled with the scent of rain and life. Cadets gathered, stunned. Even Zark stood silent, watching. The tree wasn't just beautiful. It was healing. Where its roots spread, cracked metal sealed. Rust turned to silver. The air grew cleaner, warmer, kinder. The warden spoke one last time that day. Biosignature confirmed. Species: Terran. Function: World Mender. Warning: do not harm. This is a gift, not a weapon. Alara stood, brushing dirt from her knees. She looked at the Vroth ship on the horizon, then at the trembling faces around her. I'm not here to fight, she said, voice clear and strong. I'm here to show you that even broken things can grow again. And for the first time, the galaxy began to believe her. The tree grew fast. In just 3 days, it filled the Academy's central dome with light and clean air. Its roots spread onto the floors, and where they touched old metal, rust turned to smooth silver. Cadets came to sit beneath its branches, not to study or train, but just to breathe. Even Zark came once, standing far back, watching the leaves shimmer like they held tiny stars. But peace did not last. Commander Vrel had not left. His warship still floated in silent orbit, engines cold, weapons dark, but his mind burned hotter than ever. The seed, the tree, the warden's words, they all pointed to one truth he refused to accept. Humans were not primitive. They were something older, something sacred. And that scared him more than any army. In the dead of night, he sent a coded message to his homeworld. The echo is real. If Earth holds more like her, the hegemony's rule ends. We must act before the Concord turns to them. His superiors replied with one word: not the Academy. Not yet. But Earth. If the source was destroyed, the echo would die with it. No one knew this but Vrel and his inner circle. To the rest of the galaxy, he played the part of a concerned leader. He requested a formal hearing before the Concord Assembly, one last chance to evaluate the human threat. The Academy Council, pressured by fear and politics, agreed. Alara was summoned. She stood alone in the Grand Chamber, a vast hall where a light bent around floating pillars of stone. Delegates from hundreds of species watched from high seats, some curious, some cold, most unsure. Morel sat in the front row, eyes wide with worry. Archivist General Kor stood near the Warden's core terminal, silent but present. Commander Vrel stepped forward, his armor gleaming, voice booming. Alara Vance, he began. You have shown strange powers. You wake ancient systems. You grow trees that heal metal. You speak to machines as if they are friends. These are not the acts of a normal being. They are the signs of a weapon disguised as a student. Murmurs rose through the chamber. Alara did not flinch. I am not a weapon. Then prove it, Vrel snapped. Tell us what you truly are. Why do our ships obey you? Why does the Warden bow to your voice? Why is your seed mend what our science cannot fix? She looked at the crowd, at the fear in their eyes, the hope in a few. She thought of her grandmother's hands in the dirt, of children on Earth sharing one cup of clean water, of the quiet courage it took to plant seeds in poisoned ground. I am human, she said simply. That is all. That is not enough. Vrel shouted. The galaxy demands truth. Alara took a breath. Then she spoke not loudly, but with a calm that cut through the noise. My people did not come to this galaxy to rule. We came because we remembered a promise. Long ago, our ancestors, the ones you call the Builders, chose to vanish. Not because they were weak, but because they believed younger species should find their own way. They left behind no armies, no commands, only seeds, songs, and stories. She paused. We were meant to forget. But Earth held on. Through fire, ice, and silence, we kept the memory alive, not in machines, but in how we treated each other. When the world broke, we didn't build walls. We built gardens. When we had nothing, we shared. That is our strength. Not in what we destroy, but in what we rebuild. A Xylian elder leaned forward. Then why now? Why reveal yourselves? Because you are breaking too, Alara said softly. Your worlds grow cold. Your wars never end. You chase power but forget kindness. We are not here to lead you. We are here to remind you. You don't need to be perfect to be worthy. You just need to care. Silence filled the chamber. Then Morel stood. She saved my life with nothing but cloth and courage. Is that a weapon? Or is it something better? A Krill scholar, once cold and logical, added, her strategy in the cognition chamber saved more lives than pure logic ever could. Perhaps emotion is not weakness. One by one, voices rose, not all in support, but enough to shift the wind. Vrel's face darkened. He had not expected this, but before he could speak, the warden's voice echoed through the hall, calm, deep, final. New data received. Priority Alpha. All eyes turned to the main display. A star map appeared. Earth glowed in blue. Then a red line streaked toward it, fast, silent, armed. A Vroth stealth cruiser, the warden said. Course locked to Sol system. Estimated arrival 18 hours. Payload Planet Scourge warhead. Gasps filled the room. Alara's blood turned to ice. No. Vrel paled. He hadn't ordered this yet. Someone in his command had acted without him, hoping to end the threat before it spread. But it was too late. The deed was known. The Xylian elder stood, voice shaking with rage. You would destroy a world to silence one girl? It is not about her. Vrel shouted. It is about balance. If humans hold the power of the builders, they will control us all. They already control nothing, Morel said bitterly. They offer healing, and you answer with fire. In that moment, Concord saw the truth. The humans were not the threat. The fear of them was. The assembly erupted. Delegates demanded the Vroth cruiser be stopped. The Silva Concordat offered their fastest ships. The Krill Hive activated long-range dampeners to slow the attacker, but time was short. Alara looked at the screen, then at the tree in the dome, its golden leaves glowing like tiny suns. She turned to the warden. Can you reach Earth? Send a message? Yes, the AI replied. Then send this, she said. Tell them to plant the red seeds. The ones under the old observatory. Now. Kor's eyes widened. Those seeds, they are from the first bloom. They can wake dormant life across whole continents. If Earth is even 1 hour, Alara said, it will be enough. The message flashed across light years in an instant, on a broken, scarred world called Earth. Deep beneath ruins of a forgotten city, a group of elders gathered in a hidden bunker. They received the signal. Without a word, they opened a vault sealed for generations and took out crimson seeds. Wrapped in silver cloth, they ran into the poison fields. They planted. They sang. Back at the academy, Alara turned to the assembly. You want proof we are not weapons? She said, watch what we do when we are about to die. The chamber fell silent. Hours passed. Tension coiled like a spring. Then a signal. The Vroth cruiser had reached Earth's orbit. It armed its warhead. But as it prepared to fire, something happened. Below, the red seeds sprouted, not as trees, but as light. Vast waves of golden energy rose from the soil, not as a shield, but as a song. The planet sang a harmony of life, memory, and hope so powerful the cruiser's systems overloaded. Its crew did not die. They wept. They saw visions of their own homeworlds as they once were clean, whole, loved. And they could not fire. The warhead shut down. The ship hailed the Concord, not with threats, but with shame. We saw Earth, the captain whispered. It is not dead. It is waiting. In the assembly hall, tears fell from eyes of every species. Vrel stood alone, his face hollow. His fear had nearly destroyed something beautiful. Alara walked to the center of the room. She held out her hand, not in anger, but in offer. We do not want your worlds, she said. We only want a chance to help. To share what we've learned, that even the broken can bloom again. No one spoke. Then Morel stood. He walked to her and placed his hand over hers. One by one, others followed. Krill, Silva, even a young Vroth cadet who had once mocked her. The galaxy did not heal in a day, but in that moment, it chose to try, and Alara knew her people were no longer alone. The warship left orbit the next morning, not in shame, but in silence. Its captain sent one final message to the Academy: "We will carry the song back home." No one knew what that meant, but Alara did. She smiled, just a little. The Vroth hegemony did not collapse overnight. Commander Vrel was recalled, stripped of rank, and placed under review not for treason, but for fear. Fear that blinded him to a truth standing right in front of him. Some said he spent his days watching recordings of the tree in the Academy dome, as if trying to understand how something so small could change everything. But the galaxy moved on. To Concord, Assembly passed a new law. Earth was no longer a developing world. It was declared a heritage world, a place of memory, healing, and quiet wisdom. Human envoys were invited to every major council. And for the first time, human children were accepted into the Galactic Premier Academy not as curiosities, but as equals. Alara didn't celebrate. She simply kept walking. She still wore the same gray uniform. She still ate oatmeal in the mornings. But now, when she passed through the halls, cadets didn't whisper. They nodded. Some even smiled. Zark never apologized, but he stopped glaring. Once, he left a protein bar on her desk. She ate it without comment. The tree in the dome grew taller every day. Its roots now reached into the lower levels, and wherever they touched, broken systems woke up. Old labs that hadn't functioned in centuries powered on. Forgotten archives opened. The warden, once cold and distant, now spoke to students in gentle tones, offering lessons not just in war or logic, but in compassion, ecology, and the art of listening. Archivist General Kor spent his days beside Alara, showing her lost records maps of ancient Earth, songs from the Builder era, blueprints of cities that floated on oceans of light. "You are not just a student," he told her one evening, his many eyes soft. "You are a bridge." "I don't want to be special," she said, watching petals fall from the tree. "I just want people to remember that kindness matters." "That," Kor said, "is the rarest kind of power." Then came the day the Concord asked her to speak. Not in a trial, not in defense, but at the Great Convergence, a gathering of leaders from every world in the Concord, held once every 100 cycles. They wanted her to share what Earth had learned in its long silence. She almost said no. But Morel convinced her. "They don't need a hero," he said. "They need a human." So she went. She stood on a stage made of living crystal, under a sky full of alien suns. Thousands watched ambassadors, generals, scholars, young cadets from every corner of the galaxy. Some still doubted. Most were curious. All were quiet. Alara didn't give a speech. She told a story. She spoke of her village after the last dust storm, how they shared one cup of water among 10, passing it slowly so everyone could taste it. She spoke of her teacher, who taught math using broken bottle caps because paper was too precious. She spoke of nights when they sang old Earth songs, not because they were happy, but because silence felt like surrender. "We didn't have starships," she said. "We didn't have AI or shields or energy weapons. All we had was each other. And that was enough." She paused. "You think we are weak because we choose peace. But peace is not the absence of war. It is the presence of care. And care takes courage." Then she held up a small pouch. Inside were seeds, brown, ordinary. Nothing like the glowing ones from the Chamber of Origins. "These are from my grandmother's garden," she said. "They grow wheat. Not trees of light. Not shields. Just food. But food means no one starves. And when no one starves, no one fights. She walked down from the stage and offered the seeds to the first leader she saw, scarred, Roth elder who had once called humans soft. He stared at her hand. Then, slowly, he took one seed. The crowd held its breath. Then a Silva diplomat stepped forward. Then a Krill matriarch. One by one, they came not for power, but for hope. After the convergence, something new began. On dying worlds, humans arrived not with armies, but with gardens. They taught how to clean water with moss, how to grow food in ash, how to build shelters from scraps. They didn't preach. They worked alongside others, hands in the dirt, side by side. Back at the academy, Alara started something small. A new class. No name at first. Just a room with chairs in a circle, a pot of tea, and a window that looked out at the healing tree. She called it Resilience Studies. At first, only Morel came. Then a few others, curious, quiet. She didn't teach tactics or equations. She taught things like how to listen without fixing, how to sit with someone who is afraid, how to plant a seed even when you're not sure it will grow. To the galaxy, it seemed strange. But cadets began to stay after class, talking about things they'd never shared before loss, doubt, dreams. The warden watched and approved. One evening, as stars blinked awake above the dome, Alara sat alone beneath the tree. She held a small comms device. A message had just arrived from Earth. It was a video. Children, human children, laughing in a green field. A river ran clean beside them. Birds flew overhead, real birds, not drones. The camera panned to a woman with silver hair, standing beside a new crop of red blooming wheat. Alara, her grandmother said, voice crackling but warm. The world remembered how to breathe. Thank you for reminding it. Alara wiped her eyes and smiled. She wasn't a warrior. She wasn't a queen. She wasn't even the last of her kind. She was just a girl who remembered. And that was enough. Months passed. The academy changed. New gardens spread across its decks. Cadets from rival species worked together in soil labs. Even the simulations began to include peace scenarios, how to stop a war before it starts, how to heal a broken alliance, how to share resources fairly. Alara never claimed credit. She just showed up, listened, planted seeds both real and in hearts. One day, a young human boy arrived at the academy, barely 12, eyes wide with wonder. He carried a small plant in a recycled can. Is this where Alara Vance is? He asked a passing cadet. Myrelle, now a senior instructor, heard him. He knelt. Yes. Why do you want to see her? The boy held up the plant. She sent seeds to my village. Our river runs clear now. I wanted to say thank you. Myrelle led him to the garden dome. Alara was there, teaching a group how to braid vines into strong rope, something humans did when metal was scarce. She saw the boy. She stopped. He ran to her, shy but bright-eyed, and offered the plant. She took it gently. What's your name? Kai. She smiled. Welcome, Kai. And in that moment, the future felt soft. Like new leaves after rain. The galaxy had spent millennia chasing power, speed, and control. But here, in a quiet dome on a school between stars, something new was growing. Not conquest, not fear, but kinship. And Alara knew this was what her people had been waiting to give. Not weapons, not secrets, just the courage to believe that broken things can heal. If someone is willing to care. She looked up at the endless stars, not as distant lights, but as homes, and she whispered the old earth, saying her grandmother taught her, you don't need to be loud to be heard. You just need to be true. Around her, the tree glowed softly, its light spreading through the academy like a promise. The galaxy was learning, and humanity, at last, was home.